Hello and welcome to this edition of Dirt Talk with Drake York. I've got Candace Forsberg, wife of Andy Forsberg, and I got Lisa Becker, wife of Sean Becker, as well as Andy Forsberg's dog. So, you're the star of the show today, okay? We're not going to ask any of these two people questions today. Okay, that's a lie. So, we'll start off with you, Lisa. What was your first introduction to the sport of racing?
Well, my best friend took me to a race in high school, and I grew up in Chico my whole life, never knew there was a racetrack. So Gold Cup, one of the biggest races of the year, and I had no idea we had a track here. So she took me on Friday night, we didn't have anything going on, and I said, well, these are cool, do they flip? So that's all I cared about, I just wanted to see them flip. And that was the first race I went to, and then the next race I went to is after Sean and I started dating, and been here ever since.
All right, same question for you, Candace. What was your first introduction to racing?
I actually grew up in a racing family. My parents were both drag racers, and when they decided to get out of that, they bought a sprint car, and we had a driver, and that's kind of how, in Oregon, that's how we got into it. We had a driver named Michael Morlock in the 10H car, and been racing my whole life since I was 3 years old, if I think back. It's kind of just been a part of our family.
Well, back to you, Lisa. How did you and Sean meet?
Well, Aaron Colburn, who works with Jason Statler now, he was my roommate, and he was friends with my brother from, I think I've known him since I was 3, and he raced go-karts with Sean. And so when they started the 23 team, he got brought down as crew member, and so that's how we met, is one night after the races. This guy came home to my house, and I guess he was pretty cool.
Candace, how did you meet Andy?
Well, my sister, my identical twin sister, Crystal, was dating Mike Benson at the time, and it was Speed Weeks, and they were coming through Oregon, where I lived, and I decided to drive to Medford, Oregon, and watch Mike race. And when I was watching Mike, Andy Forsberg had asked about me in regards to who's that, and he knew my sister, and he didn't know she had a twin sister, and that's the first conversation Andy and I ever had was in Medford, Oregon. Yep, at Speed Weeks.
So Candace, this question was mostly targeted at you, I'm sorry, but is it hard to be around Andy all the time?
I'll answer that. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Lisa spends a lot of her time at my house during tax season, since that's where my office is, and we work together. Andy is very driven. He is a hard worker. He loves and has such a passion for racing that when I grew up in sprint car racing, we had what we called the 3 F's. Family, fun, and friends. When I met Andy, I'd never even heard of family, fun, and friends. It was win, win, and win. So it was definitely a hard adjustment in regards to just the fun part of racing, because he was so driven to always be competitive and win the race. And even a second place at a lot of times was just not enough. So thank God I feel like I have a lot of patience because that's probably what has kept us together for such a long time.
What do you think about that, Mia? What do you have to say?
Mia has mellowed him out, let's just say that.
Well, how about you, Lisa? Is it hard to be around Sean at all?
No. I actually, because Sean's the only person I've ever really, dated or married that was a racer, I didn't grow up around this, so I didn't see the mentality and the, hostility that comes with a lot of these guys. And I've seen people punch walls, and I've seen them throw helmets and throw steering wheels, and I have never, ever experienced anything like that. He gets mad at himself, but never at anybody else, and really after the races are over, he'll be hard on himself, but nobody else usually sees any kind of reaction.
Well, Lisa, I know you are up in the scoring tower at Placerville lots of the time. How did you get started in the whole officiating business?
Sean's sister Jamie used to keep track of all the stuff at Cycleland. So when we would go, she had a clipboard and she had all sorts of stuff going on, and And so I said, well, I want to learn that. I like numbers and I want to play. So she kind of taught me how to do the go-karts, which if you asked me now to score a go-kart race, I couldn't do it. But it just became kind of a thing. If I had a clipboard in my hand, I was comfortable and I wasn't thinking about the fact that, my boyfriend or my husband is going 100 miles an hour in a circle. So it kind of became a job to me. And I said I could probably do that. And I actually quit my job after I had Travis and said, well, I need to figure something out to do. So at the Silver Dollar Banquet, right before Travis was born, I told Dennis, I said, I think I could do this stuff. If you guys ever need a backup scorer, I could learn. So Dennis actually here at Chico had Aaron train me, and so kind of learned how to do that.
Did much training
on the computer. I did.
I'm like, if you ask any driver out there, you were the first person they'd go to find out where they were starting in their heat race before the lineups ever even showed up on the board.
And unlike Sean, I would argue if somebody was wrong around me.
And you were usually right. I'm just saying, I've been there. I've seen you in action. I know.
Yeah, so that's how I got started and been traveling all over for a couple years now, so it's fun.
Well, Candace, have you ever thought really about trying to be an official?
No.
No. Think about it.
No. The complications when it comes to, it's almost like politics if you think about it. And I'm sure Lisa deals with this, having a husband racer. You're almost as if you have a target on your back. If you do one thing, you were trying to help Sean advance.
I give her a hard time about that all the time.
And in all reality, honestly, I feel sorry for Sean because she's the opposite. She actually, poor Sean, gets usually jousted when it comes to like lineups, or if she's not for sure, he gets the raw end of the deal most of the time. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, we do know Candace has the star dog Mimi here. Do you have any pets?
We have 2 wiener dogs. So they're getting older, so they used to travel with us all the time, but they're both at home right now.
She doesn't need a dog. She's got Allison and Travis. Are you
That's
kidding
true.
me?
That's enough.
Those 2 are
Travis
entertainment in themselves.
Travis is pretty entertaining.
Yes.
I listened to Allison while you were up there too last weekend in Placerville. I think we might have another announcer coming up through the...
Yes, that is what I need to lecture you about. I will give Allison credit. I did steal her job last week.
Yes,
But if she ever comes to cycling, watch out.
She's not allowed to, huh?
She did a good job. It was
Yeah,
pretty
she did
cute.
good.
She does
Yeah.
good.
Well, Candace, we just mentioned Mimi here. Let's see if I can get her up there. So I know Mimi's the star around here. What's that like for you? And what's the story of how you got her?
Okay, so Andy and I have been together for, close to 16, 17 years now. We're actually going on our 10th wedding anniversary. We were together, people don't know this, we were together a long time before we got married. I have always wanted a dog, and I've always wanted a motorhome. There were 2 things that I wanted. Well, Andy, dogs stink, dogs tear up your home. Motorhomes, I'd rather stay in a hotel because I have my own shower. Actually, I'd rather drive home and sleep in my own bed. And this is what I got for years. Well, I got to the point where it was like, we have 4.5 acres. Racing shouldn't all be about him. So I kind of used that. And I said, hey, I'd like to spend time with our family and friends at the races and not be in a hotel all day long waiting for you to decide when you want to come out to go into the heat or whatever your deal might be. This is what I want. Nope. That's what I got. Nope. Well, there's this saying, well, I have a job. So there was 2 things. I kind of lied to him and said my mom bought me the dog, but really she didn't. Kaylin and I just went and picked her up. And it was either going to be he was going to fall in love with her or it was going to be divorce court. It was one or 2. I didn't weigh the options. It was like, hey. So at that point, I came home with her and literally I slept on the couch for 6 months. He would not allow her in our bed or nothing. Now, as people who might be watching this see, I'm not for sure who loves her more, if it's me
It's
or
him.
him.
It's him.
But she must be in bed with us every single night. And like I said, it took 6 months to kind of kick him in the ass, I guess, to figure out that I wasn't giving in. I'm a little bit stubborn in that way. And she won over, and she now rules our household.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So this is our child. We have a child, and her name is Mia.
And she's more popular than Andy, so that's a plus.
Oh, for sure.
There is a lot of truth to that.
So Lisa, I know you and Candace are great friends, but has there ever been an altercation with Sean and Andy on the track that maybe you guys didn't want to talk to each other for a while?
Oh yeah, I've hit her quite a few times. Candace was Candace was probably one of the first wives. I think Candace and probably your mom, the first wives that I actually talked to at the racetrack. I'll never forget Santa Maria, back in 2003 probably.
I think it was.
I went up and I knew that she was together with Andy, and she was, one of the supporting wives that always was around, so I knew who she was. And I went and sat down next to her, and both of us are kind of rocking, and the guys are out on the track, and we're doing this. And I said, so does it ever get easier? And just, immediately, no, not at all. I was like, I thought, after a couple years of me in this racing thing, it would get easier. And so, we kind of became friends at that point. And now after I quit my job, I got involved in doing taxes, and Candace has been doing taxes forever. And so she and I go up to her house, and I work during tax time and do all that. And I usually drop my car off at the trailer after the race and go find Candace and go hang out with her. So I would say, neither one of us, Sean and Andy, the friendly rivalry, I don't think there's ever been any kind of altercation between them, and definitely not with us. I know Andy just a couple weeks ago at Placerville got up against Sean pretty good, and Sean kind of woed back, and immediately following that race, Andy went over to him and said, I didn't know that was you, I'm so sorry. And he goes, man, I saw you coming, and said, whoa, that's weird. And so I'd asked Sean about that, and he goes, no, he didn't know it was me. So the two of them have the utmost respect for each other, and it goes the same for Candace and I too. So
Well, Candace,
no drama.
I know you have been to quite a few tracks with Andy, but out of all of them, which one's been your favorite?
Oh goodness. A few years ago, I hate to say this on video, I would have said Placerville was probably my favorite track to go to. Lately, not so much, obviously, as it's a little dusty, and I grew up in Oregon where it rains a lot, and the tracks are really hook 'em up, and it's racy, and it's, I don't have to worry about wearing goggles all night long, for qualifying. But I will say, in the past few years, Petaluma probably has been the most, it's the track that I can go to and I can watch passing all night long. And clean passing, fun passing, where it's a racy track, you get a good race all night long. Like I said, I understand these kids coming up, they really like this dry slick stuff where they can slide job and stuff. I didn't come from that world. So it's hard for me to watch either a race where they follow each other around a circle all night long, or a track where the only way you can see passing is for somebody to slide up into you, and you have two choices. You either lift and you lose a spot and you look like, weak, or you don't lift and you end up in the grandstands because you were stupid and didn't lift in the first place. I like a track where there's a top and a bottom, and they can race together all night long, and it's just fun to watch. As a fan, because I was a fan first. I grew up in this. I was a fan first before I was married to a race car driver, and I like to see passing. I like to see just the old school style racing where you didn't have to boot somebody to get a position. I'm an old lady. Sorry.
You're not that old.
You own a race car too, so you don't want to see
I own a race car, so I do not want somebody punting to pass. And Andy, he's owned his cars his whole life. His dad, they didn't get to go racing. His mom gave them an allowance. So if they didn't, if if they ruined a car one weekend, they didn't get to go racing the next weekend. A lot of these kids don't understand that nowadays. The money's coming in, they get in a car and they go race. They don't really kind of realize what it takes to keep racing. And Andy did. Andy grew up in that lifestyle. He didn't have parents that had money. You know, if he wanted to race, he could not ruin it the week before. So if somebody slid him, he lifted. It was his motto, I live to race another day. And I get that. You know, when you own your own race car, it's expensive. And, you know, you don't want it to take away from your family. We have a child in college. You know, you kind of have to be smart, and Andy is definitely one of those smart drivers, and I thank God for that. But on the other hand, there are days out there I'm like, just do what you have to do. I do. I will say, as a wife, I'm one of those people going, he slid you, you slid him, you slid him back, and then I get from Andy, what do you want me to do? I don't even know how to do a slide job. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it's a family ordeal, and I'm sure Lisa understands this. She probably gets frustrated with Sean too sometimes, because when you're on the outside looking in, it's way different than when you're out there on the racetrack, you know. So like I said, it's passion. We all have it, or we wouldn't be here, you know.
Well, Lisa, Candace just took that on our rant.
I wish I had one that said Drake sucks. Oh.
No, you can make one of those. I don't care.
I would not love you.
No, kids at school make fun of me. It's really depressing. All right, Lisa, same question there. What was your favorite track that you've ever been to?
So, yeah, I have to agree. I love Petaluma. I think too, our husbands have both had so much success there. It's easy to like a track where every time you show up, you go, yeah, we're gonna win tonight, and you know, which I try and do every time we show up somewhere. But Chico's home, so I love this place just because this is where I started with him. This is what we did. Obviously, you know, I worked at Placerville, so you know, and Sean loves Placerville. He's great there. Petaluma, you know why Petaluma is probably my favorite? I get to wear a sweatshirt in the middle of July. So, you know,
truth to that.
there's that. Yeah, I mean, Trophy Cup, it's talk about wrecking some race cars. Last year wasn't too bad, but now I score that race. So I don't know that I love it as much as I did before, because now it's work. But I feel like Trophy Cup's one of the best shows of the year. The way that it's formatted, so that does have good racing all night long. But yeah, probably Petaluma is at the top of my list there.
Well, as you can see, they're supporting opposite sides. I'm going to use me again. You're being very helpful tonight. Lisa, can you point to Lisa supporting the Andy Forsberg Pit Crew shirt, and Candace being the Sean Becker advertisement person for the 100 Win T-shirt. So we'll start off with you, Candace. Who's your favorite driver?
You know, Andy will always be my favorite driver. But there are times he is not on the racetrack. Or he might be in the back of a race. And Sean is and I mean, it's actually, you can ask anybody who's standing around me. I'm no lie. I'm rooting for Sean if he's up there and Andy's in the back. That's how it is. My all-time favorite driver was Jack Concha. He's, and maybe that's why I loved Andy so much. They had the freaking crazy drivers, but yeah, if Sean is out on that track and Andy is nowhere around, that too. And ask Lisa, I'll come up. If he doesn't win the race, I get pretty upset with him, and he knows this. Sean knows this. So yeah, Sean's probably, for local drivers, he'll be the guy that I'll root for if Andy's not up there with him. Yeah.
All right, Lisa, how about you? Who's your favorite driver?
I'd probably ditto that. You know, if Sean can't win the race, then I'm definitely rooting for Andy. Or there's times when, you know, something like, again, same story, something has happened to Sean. It's like, ugh, all right, where's Andy at? All right, you better win this thing. So. Same thing, and because I didn't grow up around racing, you know, World of Outlaws, probably Hod also, just because he's fun. The Hod and the TK was our local Hod. So it's Sean says, why do you love me? Because I'm not anything like that. I'm not, he says to himself, I'm not the sexy driver. I just try and save my equipment and do all that stuff. And his nickname being the Shark too, that was his thing of kind of being like the creep behind. He likes to be kind of that underdog, that silent guy. And but I mean, I'm a little over the top rooting for him. I embarrass myself sometimes. But yeah, definitely if Sean's not up there in the top, I'm rooting for Andy.
All right, Lisa. Well, Sean could be racing somewhere else on the weekend. We know Allison coming up through the Cycle Land ranks, and you could be in Placerville. So what's a weekend pretty much like for the Becker family, trying to get everyone where they need to be?
Well, and add Travis into the mix because someone's got to take care of him. So it's we've had probably 3 or 4 of those just this year, where Sean was in Petaluma racing, King of the West with Vinny, and I'm in Placerville scoring a weekly show, and Allison's racing Cycling. Travis is usually with Grandma and Grandpa. So he loves the races probably more than anybody in our family. And at just 2, he knows where he wants to be. So it's a lot. This weekend, for example, he'll stay in Orville tonight with Sean's parents. We're going to go home. Allison has soccer tomorrow morning. So up here in Chico today, kid stays, Travis stays in Orville. We'll go back to Roseville. Allison will play soccer, and we'll head back up here for tomorrow night. So that's a pretty typical weekend for us, as everyone's all over the place. So lots of family support. Yeah, dance added into the mix. So we got lots of people around us that take my kids from me and help us to be able to do what we do. So.
Well, Candace, you mentioned, paying for some of the stuff when Andy races. What is your role on the race team?
Well, I have the not so fun job of being the bookkeeper. So I get to tell Andy, where the checkbook is in regards to how much he's spending. Obviously, we've been very lucky in the past years where he's driven for other people. And Andy's one of those drivers where if it's not coming out of our pocket, it's a win in his checkbook. And I thank God for that a lot, because really this is the first year where we've actually, like when he got fired from the 7C car, we actually had to start paying for things. And we've got wonderful sponsors that have stepped in and made it so that Andy can run his own car without the stress of, if something happens, that he can keep racing the next weekend. And I think that just kind of shows the type of driver Andy is that those sponsors, whether he drives for someone else, he follows Andy. If he drives for another car, Andy talks them into giving the money to that driver or that team owner. And then if he's not, then the money comes into our car, and we're able to keep racing. So we've been very lucky over the last few years to have that type of racing career, I guess you would say. So a lot of people don't, and that's, maybe someday they will be a caliber driver, but Andy's put himself in a position where he's pretty lucky, I think.
Well, Lisa, what's your role on a race team?
I have no role on the race team.
You're just the person that watches it.
I say that I'm the moral support. That's what I'm moral support. What are you talking about?
That would be good. That would be good. So my recent role is spend a bunch of money buying shirts, and then talk my husband into no, it's good. We're gonna sell them all. So I'm really fortunate that the people that Sean drives for, Monoff, his team's rolling. They do their own thing. I stay as far away from the car as I can because I don't know anything about the cars. That's not my job. That's not, I have nothing to do with it. I used to scrape mud a long time ago, and I, weaned my way out of that, and I haven't entered back into that. The minis are a whole crew full of girls, and, we've got Dan and Brian and Taylor that help out, but the girls are always there, and to be honest with you, even with the shirts, they go in the trailer, and I have no idea what happens after that. Those girls pretty much take care of everything, so very fortunate that I don't have that same situation. There's not a race car at my house. We show up, and Sean's been fortunate his entire career, to be able to drive for other people. So I have no role. I drive here.
Well,
It's
can
usual just being married to them.
That's true. It is.
Psychologist.
Julie's agreeing.
Psychologist.
Yep. So, Candace, I'm sorry, but this question's another one targeted at you. I'm very
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
I'm good.
Sorry.
I deserve it after who I'm married to, right? Okay.
What's the worst way you've been embarrassed at a racetrack?
Oh, God. Oh. You know, I can honestly say that I've never been embarrassed at a racetrack in regards to racing because really the only things I've actually come across really are the fans that are so passionate. I mean, I love fans, definitely. Andy has the best fans ever. But those that aren't fans of Andy, it's like a love or hate relationship. I have had to be escorted from Placerville multiple times due to Andy doing something on a racetrack that other fans didn't appreciate. And my daughter, you know, Kaylin was young, you know, now she's in college, but when, you know, she was 4 years old when Andy and I met. So we would go to the races and I would have people like wish death upon me. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, Andy's got an earpiece and I'm telling him, please go out there and wreck that car. You know, like I have something to do with it. But fans, the one thing, it's not an embarrassment. It's almost a fear sometimes. To the point where I literally just, for my daughter's sake, we had to be escorted twice out of Placerville. And I thought to myself, are we NASCAR? What in the world is going on here? You know, but the passion the fans do have. I mean, you know, Candace and Candace, that's what people call us all the time. I even started saying it. Really, maybe Andy not wearing a shirt sometimes. I mean, for his age, he's got a good body, I'll give him that. But it is kind of funny.
Those nipples.
I know, those nipples. There is sometimes where I do say, babe, put your shirt on.
You're scaring the children.
You know, people do. They ask me, they go, why doesn't he do that? He's got
trademark now.
Yeah, he's got being hot issues. Maybe that's why I like, you know, he always has a shirt on at Luma. He never takes it off there. So I don't know. I mean, honestly, the embarrassment part, like, I've never had that at a racetrack. It's more of either been a fear or just, yeah, Andy put a shirt on.
Yeah, what do we got to do there? Do we have to like start a fund or what are those things called when people sign papers for?
I think until Andy starts drinking beer and he gets that beer gut, which will never happen since he like has never ever acquired a taste for beer and even alcohol for that reason. I think we're all in big trouble. I just my thought process is I think as long
He's
as
a health guy anyways.
He is. He works hard, so he like, it's disgusting. He could eat a whole pizza and he still looks like that the next day. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Well, I won't have to ask you about being escorted out of Placerville. I'm sorry, Candace, but it seems like some people shift more to Sean's side.
That's because he's so sweet. That's why
He is.
I have to tell you, that's why I love him. He is so sweet.
But can I say, my kids actually, it's a toss-up who their favorite driver is, because even on the way here, Travis said, is Andy going to be there? And it's like, yes, Andy's going to be there. So, you know, Sean gets sad every once in a while, but Andy's my kid's favorite driver. Well, Allison's getting older now, so I think she's starting to figure it out. She's 9 and you know, so she's starting to figure him out, and I don't know that he's a favorite anymore, but he's definitely Travis's favorite.
So, Candace, what's your favorite part of the whole racing aspect?
I love the family. I love, like, you know, Lisa, your mother. I like everybody coming together, and at night after the races talking about, you know, old days, or even like what happened on the racetrack. I can sit there. Your dad and Andy can talk for hours.
Yep.
About old school racing and about, you know, the old time drivers, and that actually is interesting to me. You know, I hope that with the young drivers coming up in today's racing, that they learn a little bit about their background, that they learn about the reason that they're actually here. You know, they forget about, like, you know, the Jimmy Sills and, you know, the type of drivers that got them to where they are right now. Your dad and Andy have never forgotten about that, and they will literally after the races sit and talk for hours. And to me, it's that's the part of racing I love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the family camaraderie that anyone can come over and have a beer, or, you know, have dinner. You know, I always make more food than can possibly be eaten at my home. I like that part of racing. I like having a huge loving family around me and people that I care about, and that's why I think we do this, because it's a family atmosphere in all reality.
Well, how about you, Lisa? What's your favorite part of racing?
Yeah, I agree. Sean and I, so this is our 11th year married. You got married in 06.
07.
07.
Will still be 10 years this year, yeah.
So we had our 10 year last year, and it actually got a little bit trouble because Sean took me out of town, and it was during Adobe Cup. So, you know, another one of those. Petaluma, really? Should we reschedule? Because you're pretty good there. You know?
Yeah.
But you know, we talked on our anniversary and said, look at our life now with this many years under us with racing, and think of the wedding guests that we had at our wedding 10 years ago, and think of how many more would have been added just because of the friendships we've made. And, you know, when Sean first started racing, we honestly, you know, the Becker family showed up, we raced, we got back in our car, and we took off all together. And so it was, we didn't stay and hang out, we didn't, you know, get to know everybody. And Sean's a pretty quiet guy. I'm a little more outgoing than him, a little bit. So, you know, there's so many friendships, and it's just, that's what's fun is, you know, I know that I have family every time that we show up there. And I mean, Allison and her relationship with you, and you guys could sit up in the stands with my, you know, in-laws and hang out at the races, and, you know, giving high fives to Travis all the time. And I, you know, I look out that booth and I see my daughter running around in the front of the race track with all these boys, and I'm going, okay, I think in a normal circumstance I'd be really worried about this, but she can go anywhere. I think she thinks she owns this place. And, you know, so the safety that I feel around everybody, and just the amazing friendships. Your aunt was in my wedding. I mean, you know, through Clint, Sean and Clint knew each other, and you know, it's just so many friendships that have lasted forever and will continue.
So we all know winter sometimes is not our favorite part of year. No racing. Oh, well, Candace likes.
I don't know Candace, what are you talking about?
Well, for the sprint car side, we all love Red Bluff.
Well, we don't all love Red Bluff, but
I don't remember. I don't
Bluff.
have a cart husband.
Tell me,
she gets to take a winter off.
Yes.
Well, it must be kind of nice for you. You don't have to worry about what did you say your job title was for the race car, like
accountant.
Check? Yep, accountant.
I do the bookkeeping, and there's not very many checks I write between October and December. Let's just say now January is another thought process. But yeah, the winter time, you know, it used to be, this is actually kind of funny. So we have a whole curio cabinet full of tapes. Andy purchases every winning tape that he's ever wanted. So he has almost every race he's ever won a race in. And come like December, January, he starts getting a little antsy. So we start watching those videos. And it's like, it's almost like I'd rather watch a football game rather than watch these. And he will watch them. We have multiple TVs, thanks God. But he will watch them over and over, like the bug is coming back. And, you know, other than that, like, our winters are so quiet and mellow with the holidays and stuff like that, that I actually appreciate them very much.
Well, like you said, Lisa, Sean and Allison last year raced quite a few times at Red Bluff. Sean actually won a few times at Red
He
Bluff.
did. Old man came out and whooped on him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so you have Red Bluff in the winter. How fun is that for you watching Sean and Allison race?
They have Red Bluff in the winter.
Oh, you don't go?
I don't go. You know, we built our house in 2011, and during that time we were living in Orville with Sean's parents, building our house in Roseville and commuting back and forth every single day. So that went on for 2.5 years. When we built our house, I said, yeah, you guys go ahead. And I said, I'm just going to stay home. I want to do it. So actually, you know, with it being the holidays and all that stuff, of course, soccer's still going on and dance is in full swing. And so there's coordinations of when does Allison have this that we can get her to Red Bluff so that she can race or not. And obviously, you know, last year she broke her shoulder blade the day before a dance recital. So the dance team is kind of saying, so when can she stop racing so that we make sure we get through, you know, performances and all that stuff. But they love it. You know, Red Bluff used to be show up at 8 a.m. and you go home at midnight or 1 o'clock, and they've got that down a little bit where you're leaving at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. So that's fun. But, you know, Sunday is Sean's out washing the go-kart and, you know, taking care of all that stuff, getting it all clean for Grandpa so he's not working on a dirty car. And I'm usually inside watching football and just, you know, relaxing on that one day that I kind of have to do that. So.
All right, that'll wrap up our show today. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Candace.